This video is solving multi-step equations with variables on one side. So now we're going to be using the properties that we were just studying yesterday. I have here for you the steps for solving a linear equation, and you're going to see this in the next two videos as well. So you're going to see these steps in a total of 3 videos, because they apply for all linear equations. A linear equation is an equation that has one variable. I'm going to write that. Okay, so this linear equation is an equation with one variable. If you look over here, I have an example that I'm going to solve as I go through these 5 steps in solving the linear equation. The very first thing I think you should do is take your pencil, pen, whatever, and draw a dotted line down through the equal sign. That way, you're keeping them equal. The first step says, use the distributive property. You all know what that distributive property is, to remove any grouping symbols. So if I look at my example, I have grouping symbols. I have parentheses. So I need to multiply the 9 times the negative 5p and the 9 times the negative 6. So if you look at the little dotted line on this side here, and I'm going to line it up with the step, this stays 216 because I didn't do anything to it. But on the other side, if you look on the other side, you have a 9 times a negative 5p. So you're taking this times this, and you get a negative 45p. And now you're going to take a 9 times a negative 6, which is this one right here, and you get a negative 54. So that I just removed the grouping symbols. Step 2 says to simplify the expression on both sides of the equal sign. So it says to simplify on both sides. If I look at my equation over here, I have 216 equals a negative 45p minus 54. I have nothing to simplify because I only have, if you only have 1 and 2 things on each side, you don't have anything to simplify. So that step I'm done. Now step 3 says use properties of equality to collect the variable terms on one side of the equation and the constant terms on the other side of the equation. So again, properties of equality, and we want the variables on one side and we want the constants on the other side. This is going to involve us doing the inverse operation. And if you look on your next down below this directions, if you look here, these are your inverse operations. So if it is already being added, you actually, to undo it, you subtract. The opposite of add is subtract. If it's being subtracted, and then you would add to undo it. If it's being multiplied, then you use division to undo it. And if it's being divided, to undo it, you use multiplication. So let's go back. So number 3 says, use the properties of equality, collect the variables on one side, constants of the other. All right. Here's a little helpful hint. Go to the side that has more things on it. So the side that has more things on it is the right side. So now we need to figure out, we have a 216 on this side, right? You see the 216. What on the right looks like the 216? The 54 does, right? So that means we need to move that 54 over. How do we undo a minus 54? We add it. So we're going to add 54 to both sides. And when we do that, we're going to take 216 plus 54, and we're going to get, so we're going to combine these two, and we're going to get a 270. On the right side here, these cancel. That's the reason why we do the opposite sign. And so we're just left with a negative 45p. So then step 4 says use the properties of equality to solve for the variable. So if I'm looking, where's my variable? My variable's right here. So that is a negative 45 times p. How do we undo a multiplication? That's correct. We're going to divide both sides by negative 45. Divide by a negative 45. Remember, we have to do it to both sides. Use your calculator. 270 divided by negative 45 is a negative 6. And then a negative 45 and a negative 45 cancel, leaving me with a p. So that tells me that p seems to be the value of negative 6. Step 5 now says to check your solution. We know how to check our solutions. So a quick way to check your solution is to store. Remember the whole store? So you're going to go negative 6, you're going to store that, and you could call it p, that's fine. P, find the green P, so that's above the 8, so you're going to go alpha 8, and then hit enter, remember. So that stores it. The left side is 216, so you're going to leave it 216, not do anything in your calculator. You're on your calculator, you're going to type 9 times, parenthesis, negative 5P minus 6. And when you do that and hit enter, you get 216. So that tells me that they are indeed equal. You did it correctly. If you were to get something other than 216, the answer is wrong, and you would have to go back and figure out where your answer is. Okay, I know that was a little bit more detailed there, but so the rest of the ones I do weren't going to be as detailed, but that shows you all the different steps that we're supposed to do. So let's do some examples. I'm going to draw my line down here just to have it. I see parentheses. So that means I need to take the negative 5 times each of those. So negative 5 times negative 3 is 15. And then negative 5 plus 4y is a negative 20y. That's all we need to do to that side. And on the other side, I'm going to leave it just because I want to follow the steps, but you can go ahead and do that if you want. Okay, so step 2 now says simplify both sides that you can. So if I look, the 15 minus 20y, I can't do anything with because one has a y and one doesn't. But the right side, 169 minus 14, I can do something with that. So the 15 minus 20y stays the same. 169 minus 14, use your calculator, and you get 155. So that does require that second step that the other one did not. Step 3 now tells us to use the properties of equality and move things around. So if I look, I have a 15 here and I have a 155 here. They are similar. How do I undo? There's nothing out in front here, so it's assumed to be a plus. How do I undo a plus? Subtraction. So that means I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. And when I do so, these cancel, and I'm left with a negative 20y is equal to, and then what's 155 minus 15? It is 140. Step 4 now tells me to use the properties of equality again and multiply and divide. So this here is your variable. So you're needing to get the negative 20 off of the variable. So to do so, what's the opposite of multiplying? It's dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 20, and I get y is equal to a negative 7. Again, you can go and check your work. You could do a negative 7 store into y, and then enter, and you could type, does negative 5 times negative 3 plus 4y, so use your calculator to do that, does that equal the 169 minus 14? And so this is going to equal 155. This would also equal 155. So that tells me that they're good, and your answer is indeed y equals negative 7. Example 2, again, I'm going to put my dotted line. I see that I have a parentheses, so I need to get rid of it first. So remember, we need to take this whole negative 9, and I'm going to take it times this and times that. So 339 stays 339. And then I get a negative 3, and then negative 9 times negative 2 is a positive 18. And then a negative 9 times a negative 6p is a positive 54p. Step 2 tells me to simplify. So the things that look alike that I can simplify are these two, right? So this next step is going to be 339. Negative 3 plus 18 is 15. And then we have a plus 54p. Step 3 tells me to do the properties of equality and get the variables together and the non-variables together. So if I look, this is a number, so I need to move the number. So I'm going to bring this guy over. So as soon as I go over that black line, I have to do the opposite. So remember, this is a plus here. So I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. When I do that, I get 324 is equal to, and now I have a 54p, because remember, these cancel, and these together is equal to that. The next step tells me to use the properties of equality again, and to isolate the variable. Again, a variable is right here. Again, the variable is right here. Okay, that's the variable, p. So to undo 54 times p, the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 54. 324 divided by 54 is 6, and then equals p. Again, you could store that and check your answer. And this time you would only have to store it and check on the right side. The left side is done for you. And you're looking for the right side to be equal to 339. So again, you're going to go 6, you're going to store it in p, and then you're going to hit enter, and then you're going to do a -3 minus 9 in your calculator, and then when you hit enter, it should tell you that it's equal to 339, which then that's what we want because that's what is here, 339. Example 3 is a little bit different. I'm still going to put my little dotted line to keep me straight. There's no parentheses, so I don't have to do anything with those. So I go to the second step, simplify each side. They're already simplified. I go to the next step. I need to move the variables together into non-variables. So if I look, I have a 20 here and a 5 here. So that means I need to move the 5 over because it's the smallest. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. When I subtract 5 from both sides, if I combine these, 20 minus 5 is 15. And on this other side, these cancel. And so we're just left with a W over 14. It looks kind of ugly, but it's not that bad. Because the next step, we're isolating the variable. Here's the variable. So how do we undo something being divided by? So to undo something being divided by, I'm to multiply by 14. So these cancel, leaving me with a W. And then in my calculator, I'm going to type 14 times 15. And you get 210. Again, check your answer. If you store 210 into W and hit enter, and you do W over 14 plus 5, it should give you 20, which then is equal to 20. So that checks, because this side over here is only 20. Example 4. I'm going to draw my line again, and I see parentheses. So I'm going to take 6 times 2W, 6 times 3. 6 times 2W is 12W. 6 times 3 is 18. And then I have a minus 6. And on this side, I still have a 112 plus 8. Step 2 tells me I need to combine. The things that I can combine are this one and this one, as well as on the right, I can combine this one and this one. So when we do that, we get a 12W. Positive 18 minus 6 is a positive 12. And then on the other side, 112 plus 8 is 120. Now I need to move across the dotted line. So which one looks like which one? It's going to be this one here that has to move. So that means that one has to go over. So how do I undo a plus? I am going to subtract 12. When I do that, I get 12W. These cancel. And then 120 minus 12 is 108. So these two here combine to get that. Now I have to use properties of equality and isolate the variable. Here's the variable. How do I undo something being multiplied? I divide. So I'm going to divide by 12, and then these cross, so we get a W is equal to, and 108 divided by 12 is a 9. So here, if you wanted to check your work, you would have to do both sides to show that they were equal to each other. Now I want you to try these on your own. It's expected that you come in to class with these at least tried. If nothing, the first couple steps if you can't get it all the way. We'd like to see them all the way, but if you can't do them, then I want to see as much as possible.